Tim, right now you're outside the National School here in Galbally.
Yes, Jim, and the school, of course, is terribly important in the tidy towns. There's tremendous work that goes on in the school, and particularly the green flag. And practically every year or every second year, they get a new green flag for different categories what they teach the students in. But one of the things we're highly involved with is the inland fisheries people from Clonmel. And every year or every second year, they come to the school, give a talk for a short time on the different species that are in the river and the condition of the river. And every one of the students out of the school is taken back to the river here, the River Aharo we're talking about, and each one of them gets a chance to hold one of the fish, and they're shown what's living on the bed of the river and how the fish survive. And actually, the last time they said that the river is in fair good condition. And of course, there's a fabulous view of the Galties just from the car park in the school. And the road to the right goes back a long distance and is part of the Ballyhowra Way, the O'Sullivan Bear Walk, which starts behind in West Cork and comes through a lot of Cork and Limerick, and it comes across through Ballylanders and the Slieve and on here. This was the old walk going back, and it goes right through and up by the graveyard. We'll talk about it again maybe above at the graveyard. But there's signage down here on the way into the school explaining all this and about the walk and what it is. It was in 16 or the summer of the Christmas of 1600. At that Christmas time, and they set off, O'Sullivan Bear set off behind in West Cork and made the whole ways up to Leitrim and was being attacked on the whole way up. When he started, there was about 2,000 in his whole, the amount of people that were involved with him. And just back a quarter of a mile back there, tradition has it that one of the soldiers died with hunger on the side of the hill, and there was a bush that was known as the Soldier's Bush, which he died on their way. And it continues on then over through the side of Slieve and down into Tipperary and on by the Limerick Junction and up into North Tipperary and across to Shannon. But it's the longest sign walk in Ireland, and the distance of it exactly I don't know, but it's all explained on the sign down here just on the way into the school.
Tim, we're now at the cemetery.
And this is a car park which the Tidy Towns was involved in a big way in developing. Just where the marks are there, the parking marks, there were 3 old cabins there. One of them was Perry Hoare, the other lady was Daly. One of the Daly family was alive still in New Zealand up to quite recently. And the other person I forget. But the road went right through here where the gate is over there and followed through and came out below near the old street and continued on over to the Morabbey. So this is the very old road coming in here. We're delighted with the work that the council are after doing. We had a lot of trouble trying to keep the park and keep it respectable and whatnot. So now that's a big project which we don't have to worry about. You can actually see the Galties as well out through the trees on the right hand side. There's quite a lovely view of the Galties, and I suppose you wouldn't think of cutting down the trees, but I mean if you keep over near the wall you can get a quite view of the Galties there.
So as Tim was just saying there, you can just see a perfect view, an excellent view.
Just yesterday evening we were up here tidying up a small bit, and a young rabbit ran across there. So there's wildlife there as well, the young rabbits, and we have a photograph of the rabbit inside in the graveyard at one stage.
So Tim, we're just going in through, I won't say the main gate, but there's 2 entrances. So this is the second entrance. So what about those graves?
This is the old entrance, like what below is a new addition to it. So there's most of it around here. What you can see, these are, as I said to Stephen, like on the internet, anybody that's trying to find their grave in the old part, if they go into a website and it's mentioned about the old graveyards, in www.historygraves.com/graveyard/Galbally, or just go into Galbally Graveyard and click and bring up the historic graveyard in it. And you'll find a plan of all the graves in it. And attached as well in another page is the names of what are on all the graves. So if anybody wants to try and find their ancestor in the old part. In the newer part, all the graves are quite easily marked and easily identified. Now, Stephen has the camera on the wall of the old church. This was built in the 1200s. It's the same age as the Notre Dame Cathedral, which there was a lot on the television for the last number of years. It got burned, and a huge effort was put in Paris to build up the Notre Dame Cathedral. But we have a minor effort and the OPW again, and the Limerick County Council, and we have to mention the archaeologist in Limerick County Council. We'll think of her name in a second, but the length of the church is 50 yards long, about 44 or 45 metres long, and it's about 4 or 5 metres longer than the Moraby. And this part of it now, this is the south side walls of the church, and the front wall of the church, of course, the churches are always facing, running from east to west, from west to east.
Now, Tim, we're just moving in here along now to the inside of the ruins of the church.
Right, we're coming into the main part of the church, and the sad part of it was there while the church was the walls were being renovated and made safe. There was guard railing around it, but now most of it has been done, and it's just the piece on the left-hand side, which is in the northern wall, has still to be done. Now, the church came in with the Normans. The Normans invaded below in Wexford, this was built in the 1200s. We don't know exactly what year, but we do know that in the year 1278, there was a fellow called Hugh from Derbyshire. He was rector of the church at that stage. So it's much older, of course, than the Moraby. And it's lovely to see. There was a burial here in the last few days as well. And they brought the priests with them for the church, and they were called the White Friars. And they were actually the Dominicans. And the Normans left an awful lot of huge buildings all over the country in different places. And you'll see on the television an awful lot of places, the big monasteries and big abbeys and everything being built all over the place. But this is the Galbally must have been a very important place at that stage, so that they built a church that size to suit the population that was around. And it was kind of a gap between the west and the east, from Desmond, the people on Desmond on the west going over to the Ormonds in Kilkenny. And some people say that the Galbally actually comes maybe from Galbally being a junction between the east and the west, rather than a town of the stranger. But I suppose the town of the stranger, the Normans came at that time, and then Cromwell came. Now we have a lot of visitors, people refugees from Ukraine and around the village. So
now right we're on Tim, just on the new part of the graveyard.
This is the new part of the graveyard, yeah, coming. That's a new gate coming in, and all the graves on the right. And down here, most of them on the left of the building itself. There are some of them which are quite old and attached to the old part of the old church. But all this section here is all the newer part. And as I mentioned, like most of all the headstones are quite legible, and people have no problem if they're trying to find out their ancestors or their friends or whatever. But in those in the older part, a lot of the stones aren't legible, so that they can be accessed, as I said, on the internet.
Okay, Tim, we're just going to maybe just walk out along. And again, I'm just looking there in the background. That's the village down over there.
Yeah, we're overhead the village, and just outside the wall, Stephen, all around, the graveyard seemed to be up on a mound, but the land was coming right up to the graveyard on all sides at one stage. And underneath there, the top of the soil was gravel pit and sand pit. And that was left from, we mentioned the Ice Age coming, and that was left after the Ice Age. And it was excavated after the war, and an awful lot of the roads of South Limerick, the foundations of them came from gravel that was mined out here in this place here. So that was the remnant from the Ice Age.
Just looking at the cemetery itself, it's in immaculate condition in fairness. There's a lot of maintenance being carried out.
At present, the lads on the social employment scheme keep the graveyard in top class condition. They have a special pride, and it's no easy job. And especially if you had working an lawnmower or a strimmer or something on weather like this, but we have to give them top class credit. They're a huge asset to the tidy towns, the social employment scheme. And I think we mentioned benefit, that originally we had the Anchor scheme, and now we have two young lads at the moment are on a training scheme. They run their scheme, which is based in Tipperary, are being supervised in Tipperary, and they're just learning some of what's involved with the tidy towns.
Again, now Tim, we can just see, as we said, the new stonework that's gone up here in the ruins of the church, and again, there's a perfect picture of it there.
Yeah, this is the western end of the church here, and up about halfway on this side, that's the southern wall, which is the main wall on it. There was one lot of stonemasons spent a very rough winter there. They had to excavate a whole lot of growth, trees and whatnot, roots growing down through the walls. So it was a very complicated and skilled job. And the second half of it in above with the front was done by a crowd of stonemasons from Kilmallock. They worked under the trade name of Stone Med, and they did a tremendous job as well. And we're delighted. We're very much delighted that this has been done. It would be one of the great achievements while we're in the tidy towns.